Hi everyone, it's Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. I'm an American expat living in Malaysia and I like to share my life and travels with you. Well, I've been through sort of a rough time moving and I wanted to share that with you. Well, it's been almost a month since I moved out of my apartment and I still don't have my security deposit back. So I wanted to explain that and also tell you about other pitfalls you can avoid when renting in Malaysia. Sound interesting? Stay tuned. Well, you all are probably wondering where I am. Well, the other day I was at the Mamak down the street having some dinner, and afterwards I got out and I looked up at my building and I was trying to see where my apartment was. And then I noticed it looked like there was something on the roof. So when I got home, I took the elevator all the way to the top, and here we are, the rooftop of my building. Now, it's a little neglected, and I will show it to you another time. But there's two plunge pools up here and fabulous views. I'm facing more of the mountains today because the sun just wasn't right for having the KL skyline behind me, which is on the other side of the building. But anyway, let's get to the point. You know, moving is stressful for anybody, and it's been particularly stressful for me at my age. But if you're careful, it doesn't have to be a nightmare. Now, like anywhere in the world, there are good landlords and there are bad landlords. There's good tenants and there's bad tenants. But, well, I'm a good tenant, of course. But I've had two bad landlords and two good landlords in the 4 places that I've lived here. So I'm going to tell you about that and how you can avoid problems with your landlord. Now, I've talked to you before about finding an apartment. The best way is to look online, figure out a building that you're interested in, and then just really look at that building and see what you can find there. It really simplifies the process than looking all over town. Just find a complex you like and focus on that. You should also take into account the orientation of your potential apartment. Now, my first apartment here faced east. My second faced due west. My third faced north. My fourth faced southwest. And now my fifth faced west again. Now, generally west is the least desirable because you're going to get all that afternoon sun. But the morning sun isn't that much better. So my favorite apartment that I've had was in Penang, where I faced north. None of my balconies or windows got any direct sunlight, and it really kept the apartment cool. So keep that in mind. To reduce potential problems when you move out, check out the apartment thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly. Look at any damage. Photograph it, take a video. Any documentation is important, as I'll tell you later why. Another thing to consider is the age of the AC or aircon units. The older ones are less efficient and are going to cost you more. It's also very important to understand what fees you're going to be paying to the realtor. Now, generally, the owner pays all realtor fees, here and in most places in the world. But in Malaysia, in Penang, as far as I can tell, is the only place that does this. Maybe other places do it too, but not KL. But in Penang, if you have a buyer's agent, someone that's representing you, you're going to pay them a fee too. So they're going to get a fee from you and from the owner. So work that out in advance. Don't let it be a surprise. Also, most owners here, for some reason, come to the viewing when you go to look at an apartment. They want to get a look at you and a feel for you and see if they think you're going to be paying the rent. But it's also an opportunity for you to check them out too. Do they seem squirrely? Do they seem nice? You can't always tell from that initial meeting, but at least it helps. If you have a landlord that's telling you all kinds of rules before you move in, I'd go in the other direction if I were you. Ask a lot of questions. You know, I didn't do that when I moved in here. And I don't know, I mean, it's like this building has 30% occupancy. Well, that's very unusual in Malaysia. So I should have asked more questions about why that was. I've found out since, or at least part of the reason, which I'll go into another time, but honestly, you cannot ask too many questions. Another thing, and this might be common sense to all of you, but it's not really for Taylor, because I really don't usually read the fine print. My goodness, I should. Look at the lease. Read the lease. I never read a lease in my life until I moved to Malaysia. But you go through it, it's going to tell you things like how many times a year you've got to get your aircon service, who's responsible for what as far as damages. So yeah, read the lease. It's important. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, because I've had two really unpleasant experiences with landlords who don't want to give me my deposit back. Now, the fact that I've had two that just gave it back right away means I think that it's not so much me as a tenant, but it has more to say about the landlord. And I guess there's no way you can really predict, but there is ways you can protect yourself. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to sit here with the sun, but I'll try to get through this. So, as I said before, when you move in, go around and make sure everything works. Check out the water pressure, check out everything. My current apartment is brand new, as you know. So I thought, well, there wouldn't be anything wrong with it, but that's not true. I found a plug that shorted out every time you used it. And I found in the beautiful powder room, the beautiful marble vanity had a big crack and a repair in it. And I don't think the realtors or the owner were aware of it. So I took pictures of that, sent it to them right away so that they know I didn't do that while I lived here. Boy, I wish I had done that with my last place. So my first place in Malaysia was in Penang on the 35th floor in a new building. And it was okay, but for many reasons I moved out after a year, mostly construction noise. But that landlord was wonderful, gave me my deposit back hardly without even looking at the apartment, because he trusted me and trusted that I was honest. Now, I trust that most people are honest too, but unfortunately not everyone is. My second apartment in Malaysia was a nightmare. Oh, first of all, now I should have probably figured this out before I moved in, but the landlord, he just wasn't good. I had aircon problems practically since the moment I moved in there, and after 3.5 years that I lived there, he did nothing much to take care of the problems. Then I moved out into a new apartment in the same building, and he came to inspect the apartment with his wife. Well, his wife had never seen the apartment since I'd lived there, or the people before had lived there, so she didn't know what kind of condition it was in. But she sure found a lot wrong. She went nitpicking throughout the whole apartment. That's why I say take photographic evidence in advance. They told me that I had ruined their 13-year-old leather sofa. I'm sorry, but 13 years old is an old sofa that's worth practically nothing in most parts of the world. Certainly not the 4,000 ringgit they charged me by keeping my deposit. Now, I had no recourse. That's another thing. There seems to be no recourse here like small claim court, because this is not huge amounts of money, well, unless you're in a really expensive place. So most people just let it go, and I think that's what the landlords are hoping for. Another thing I wanted to mention is that landlords here don't seem to recognize normal wear and tear, a very common expression in the U.S. I mean, people expect things to get run down a little bit, just living in the place. It doesn't mean you're neglecting anything or really damaging anything. It's just normal wear and tear. But I don't see they recognize that here. They think you've done it just by living there. So my third apartment, my landlord was lovely. She gave me my money back right away, so that was nice. But now here I am, moving out of my fourth place in KL this time, and I'm having the same problem with a bad landlord. When I took possession of that apartment, it was absolutely filthy and had very, very many things wrong with it. I only had them fix the major things, but there were all kinds of little things that I didn't think mattered, but it turned out it did matter in the end. First of all, the toilet seat was broken in the powder room. I never bothered to complain about that or have it replaced. The water always took forever to drain out of the sink in the powder room too. Again, not a big deal, so I never complained about it. As I've mentioned before, the aircon never got cool enough, never complained. But boy, when I moved out, they went through the place with a fine-tooth comb and tried to blame me on some of the stuff. The broken toilet seat, the slow-running sink, oh goodness, burned out light bulbs. At this point, he's given me half of my deposit back. After a month, I might add, and it is plenty of time to have figured out an accounting. I'm willing to pay something, but I'm not willing to pay thousands of ringgit for damage that was already there. So I'm just warning you, photograph everything when you move in. Have proof. If there's things that are wrong, point them out. And if they don't matter to you, you can explain that too. But honestly, protect yourself. That's my best advice. Now, as I've said many times, most Malaysians are lovely, honest people, but there are going to be a few that aren't. So you just got to watch out for it. And I don't know. I'd be interested if any of my viewers have had any experiences like this in Malaysia. What have your experiences been with landlords? Do they only take advantage of Westerners? I don't know. Anyway, I don't just lay back and allow it. But like I said before, there's very little recourse. So if you can't get the money, you can just kiss it goodbye. Well, as you all know, I really don't like to talk about negative things about Malaysia, but I thought this was important that people could pay attention to. When you move somewhere new, you've got to be protected, and no one's going to protect you except yourself. So take care of yourself, take care of your money, and everything will be fine. I'll let you know later if I get any more money back from my current landlord. I think he'll come up with some more, but who knows, he might not. Well, I hope you found today's video interesting and informative. If so, please like and subscribe, and check the notification bell too. That way you won't miss any of my future videos. Also, I'm really pleased and want to thank everyone who's bought me a coffee. That's really a direct way to support my channel and very meaningful to me. Thank you so much. But that's all I have for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got to get out of this hot sun or I'm going to melt. So talk to you later. Bye. Get